What's up everyone, Kriddle here, and I wanted to show you all my sorcerer that I've been making for a while now. I had one on the Eternal Realm, and then I also made one for the season, and I kind of wanted to go over it. I've had a few people ask me, well, what's this build about? How does it work, etc. So I wanted to show you all my build. As you can see, I'm doing a tier 50 plus dungeon right here very easily. I'm able to just completely destroy all the monsters as soon as they spawn in this event, and I don't use any of the cold abilities like Ice Shard or Frost Nova in this build. The only thing that I do use is the Ice Blades, and I'll go over, the bits and pieces and how it all works. And you might also be asking, does this build also work for bosses? And the short answer is yes, it absolutely does work for bosses. You're not going to be able to one-shot or 2 or 3 shot bosses like you can with some of these other meta builds that absolutely just destroy bosses, but this one does handle bosses fairly well. So let's jump into the build. Okay, so here is the sorcerer. I just tried to make this video and it was way too long, so we're going to do a much shorter version. If you want more information, please come to my Twitch channel, ask me. I'm happy to talk about it in more detail. But we're going to quickly go over this rather than to go into a lot of detail about why I do certain things. But let's see how quickly we can do this. So starting out, this is my skill tree. I do recommend putting a lot of points into Arc Lash, getting over here to Glinting Arc Lash in the beginning. That's what I did from like levels 1 to 25, maybe even up to like around 40. Chain Lightning is going to be your main damage dealer, so you want to put points into that. And Destructive Chain Lightning for the crackling energy. Over here, we do have Elemental Dominance. You want to put points into that because you're going to be gaining a lot of mana through items later on. And you're going to be doing extra damage with your Chain Lightning and also down here with your Ball Lightning. Over here in our defensive tree, we only want to put 1 point into Teleport, and we're going to get over here to the Shimmering Teleport for that 30% damage reduction. Here for Ice Armor, just 1 point into that, and you're going to want to get 1 point into the Enhanced Ice Armor until you feel comfortable with your mana regeneration, which is going to happen around level 30 to 40 whenever you can get to the mana regen item that I'll show you in a minute on my items. I do recommend getting Glass Cannon, putting 1 point into Elemental Attunement just so that these two abilities just randomly will reset, which is kind of nice. Down here, you're going to put 1 point into each of your conjurations, and you're going to go to the Summoned Hydra for your Hydra. For the burning damage, you specifically want the burning, not the crit. Definitely get the burning. It'll make more sense with the Devouring Blaze. Over here with the Ice Blades, again 1 point. You're going to put in 1 point here into the Summoned Ice Blades because of the cooldown reduction, so that your Ice Blades will be getting, every time they hit something vulnerable, it'll be a cooldown reduction on all of your abilities. So that'll be very beneficial to you. And then over here, again, 1 point into Lightning Spear, and then your Lightning Spear stuns for 2 seconds. You can also go over here to the Summon Lightning Spear if you want to, because you will be making a lot of crackling energies. This works better for boss fights. This works better for crowd clearing from my testing. Here you have Conjuration Mastery. The reason you want to put 3 points into Conjuration Mastery is because you have 3 conjurations. In addition to that, you're going to be getting up to 10 of them at one time. I've had 10 very often. Normally I have anywhere from 6 to 7. Like that's the kind of the minimum is 6, and then sometimes it's 7, and then up to 10 for one or 2 seconds at most, and then it'll jump back down to like 8 or 9. But anywhere from 6 to 10 conjurations up at any given time. So that's up to 30% bonus damage across the board for all of your skills, which is really nice to have. Over here, you want to put 1 point into Align Elements, which they recently updated, so making it slightly better, but only put 1 point into it. I wouldn't recommend more. Mana Shield, they also just buffed recently. So every time you spend 100 mana, you'll get 21% damage reduction. That goes in with your damage reduction over here from your teleport, which you should be using quite often. So you're going to have 51%, essentially 51%. It's not additive, it's multiplicative or whatever. So it works differently, but Also very, very nice. You're going to be spending 100 mana every 5 seconds, so that'll pretty much always be up. Down here, I recommend putting 1 point into protection. The reason you put 1 point into it and not multiple points into it is because every time you use a cooldown, you're going to be using cooldowns here, 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 and here. So there's going to be 4 abilities on your bar. They're going to be using cooldowns. You're going to be using them quite often, and that's going to essentially just give you that barrier back, and it only lasts for 3 seconds. So there's no point in getting more of that barrier. In fact, when you use your ice armor, it's going to give you this barrier, which is 30% plus another 10%. So you're going to get a 40% barrier every time you use your ice armor, and then your ice armor is going to build on top of that because you're going to be doing damage. So 1 point here is plenty, just to make sure that you have a barrier up as much as possible, because you won't always have ice armor up. Down here, you want to put in 1 point here into Inner Flames. That is only to get you over here to Devouring Blaze, to put 3 points in Devouring Blaze. You could put 3 points into it and then also get 3 point item contribution. Right now, I only have the 3 points item contribution. If you're going up against bosses, I do recommend putting 3 points into here. You could take the 3 points out of Shocking Impact down here when you're fighting a boss and put it up here, because this is not going to happen often on bosses because you actually have to stun the boss. So that's not going to really go off very often. But against a lot of enemies, this is a better way to go. The Shocking Impact does hit quite a few enemies because you're constantly doing lightning damage and stunning things. So that right there is going to help you quite a bit with crowd clearing. I would recommend early on putting points into Crackling Energy, or sorry, not Crackling Energy, Invigorating Conduit, to get that extra mana from Crackling Energy. I would put 3 points into this until you can get your mana under control. Once your mana is under control, you can take points out of this and put it somewhere else. You do want to put Ball Lightning, max that out as quickly as possible, and you're going to be putting that into your enchantment slot. You're actually never going to be casting this, but you want to have as much Ball Lightning as you can because you want this to do extra damage. And then I come down here for the extra Crackling Energy. Again, this one is probably not necessary. You could take this point out of here and put it somewhere else like Devouring Blaze, or somewhere else that you feel like it could be needed to get a little extra damage. You could also get rid of this. If you got rid of this, I would get rid of this one because your attack speed, I don't use any attack speed. You could do that if you wanted to, and you could make this Ball Lightning even better, but I personally don't do that. This is just extra residual damage, which is just kind of nice. Down here, we do have Coursing Conduit. Do not put more than 1 point into it. It's absolutely worthless after that because you're going to be doing critical strikes so often, it's just going to reset back down to 1. You're literally going to get 1 stack of this and it'll crit, and then 1 stack and then crit. It happens so fast you probably won't even see the 1 stack that you're getting. But the reason you put a point into that is to come down here to Electrocution. Electrocution is going to lower the damage, so it's damage reduction. Basically, it lowers the amount of damage that the enemy puts out. So it's kind of damage reduction in a sense. 15% less damage when you critically strike by your shock skills, which you're going to be doing quite often because you're going to have your Chain Lightning, your Lightning Spear, your Crackling Energy, although I don't think Crackling Energy is considered a skill, and then also your Ball Lightning up here. Those are going to be going off so often that you're going to be getting that the stacks of that, or you're going to have that on pretty much all the time on any enemy. Down here is your lucky hit chance to stun. Again, this is just kind of a CC thing. You could take this out if you wanted to. Like if you're going after bosses, I would recommend taking this out and taking these 3 out and then just pumping up something else, like maybe pumping all those points into your Conjuration so you just do more damage, because you're not going to be doing any type of CC to the bosses anyway. And then down here, Overflowing Energy is what I recommend at the end game. Up until mid game, around level 30 to 40, you might want to use Shatter, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. But Overflowing Energy is what you're going to want to go with because that's going to get your cooldowns faster. It's going to get your teleport down faster, and it's going to get your Lightning Spear down faster. And then every time that you use a Lightning Spear or your teleport, we're going to get into our enchantments. So you're going to be getting your Ice Blades is going to be popping up, and you're going to get more Ice Blades, which are going to then help reduce the cooldowns of all of your other abilities. So they kind of work together to reduce the cooldowns quite a bit on all of your abilities so you can recast them even faster. So that's kind of the idea there. So these are the 2 enchantments that you're going to put in near the end game. Before your end game, so at level 15 and then at level 25 or 30 or whatever level you can get the second one. I think it's 25. I recommend putting 1 point into Firebolt when you hit level 15 and putting that enchantment in here, and then putting 1 point into Frost Nova and putting it here at level 25. The reason for that is because you're going to be getting the extra Firebolt damage on every single thing that you hit. It's going to add a little bit of extra burning damage. And then it's also going to help you do a little bit more damage because everything will be burning. You'll be able to do more critical strike damage with your Devouring Blaze. So early on, I would recommend that. And then why I said Shatter is because I do recommend putting in points into Frost Nova, and then all the way down here to Mystical Frost Nova early on, and using your lucky hit chance. So your conjuration skills have up to it would be 30% chance. There's a reason it's 36, but it would be a 30% chance to cast Frost Nova, and it happens quite often because you're doing so many little hits that your lucky hit chances are happening a lot. So like this one is only 3% chance, but you're doing a lot of these since you're going to have 2 of those up, and that's 8 hits that are constantly happening because it's 4-headed hydras. You're going to be getting more Ice Blade hits, and then your Lightning Spear is going to be going around hitting things, and you can have 2 or 3 Lightning Spears. What you're going to end up having with this build is 2 hydras up at a time, about 4 Ice Blades up at a time, and then 3 Lightning Spears up at a time. That's going to be your average that you're going to be doing quite often. So it's nutty once you get it going. It gets completely nutty, and you get a lot of lucky hit procs, and because of that, you're going to be getting these Frost Novas are going to be going off a lot. And then they'll explode with the Shatter. So that's early game. It just kind of helps you eliminate the larger crowds. But then in a later game, you don't need to worry about the larger crowds. I would just do the overflowing energy, and your crackling energy is going to take care of all the little guys, and then you're just going to focus on the elites or bosses with all of your other skills. So that is basically the skill tree. Next, we're going to look at the items really quickly. So under our items, with the helmet, you're going to want to look for anything that gives you plus to your conjurations. If you can get all 3 conjurations, like mine here, I have Lightning Spear +3, Hydra +4, and Ice Blades +3. I do have another one that's got +4 to Hydra, Hydra and Ice Blades, I believe, and I'm trying to re-roll it to get the Lightning Spear +4, but I'm just not having any luck. So right now I'm using this one, and hopefully I get the other one that I get +4, and it also has the cooldown reduction on it. So that's what you want to get here. For your defensive slot of your imprints, you want to get this one right here, which is Exploiters. So on Exploiters, it gives you 20% crowd control since you're going to be doing a lot of stuns. It just adds more defense to you, so you have that going on. And then your you'll be causing unstoppable quite often because you're going to be stunning things so much that they're going to become immune and become unstoppable, and you're just going to do the bonus damage to them once they become unstoppable and hopefully kill them very quickly before they kill you. That is the goal there. So here we're going to have, I would recommend getting this more defensive than what I have. Currently I have mine to be fairly offensive because it's got bonus shock skill damage and bonus conjuration damage, but I would say that you probably don't need that. I would say getting dodge chance, damage reduction, things like that is going to be even better. But mine does have the total armor on there, so that's good. And then I would get those other things that I mentioned. And then you also want to get in the disobedience. Even though they recently nerfed it, it's still very, very good. You get that 30% extra bonus armor almost instantaneously because you're doing, again, so many little hits that you get that 60 stacks. It's very, very fast. We'll do defensive first. So down here on your pants, we're looking again mostly defensive. Temerity pants are very, very good. However, temerity pants currently don't work with barrier stuff. So like your bonus damage from barrier here and your vulnerable damage with barrier here, the temerity pants don't work with that. So temerity pants are very good. I do recommend them because they help you get a barrier, but I think that this ends up being a little bit better overall. So it's kind of whatever you want to use. The reason I like this a little bit better is because I have 3 very heavy defensive things on here. So we've got the dodge chance, we've got the damage reduction, and the total armor on here. But because it's pants, we can get ball lightning, which is just going to add 4 ranks to ball lightning, helping us do more damage with our ball lightning. In addition to that, I like having while you have a barrier active, you have a 13% chance to ignore direct damage from distant enemies. Everything can be distant. You do not need to be in melee range for this build whatsoever. You can jump into melee range if you want to, but you do not need to be. Crackling energy actually has about a half a screen range on it. So you just need to be close enough to them where your crackling energy goes to that first enemy, and then it'll spark through the rest of them. You don't have to worry about it. Just make sure you're close enough to them, but you do not have to be right on top of them. So don't get yourself in a situation where you're stacked on top of enemies. You can jump into pools of enemies if you want to. Have fun, enjoy it. You will probably be okay up to a certain point, but when you start pushing those higher tiers, you're going to want to back away a little bit. I think up to around tier 55 or 60 nightmare dungeons is about where you're going to start getting one shot. Hopefully we're going to get some changes to that in the next update, 1.111111, whatever it's called. Hopefully we get that soon. So this isn't a defensive item, but it's also not an offensive item. So we're going to look at boots next. On your boots, I do recommend getting max 3 charges. Very, very big. I think that's better than anything else. Here you want to get 4 ranks of teleport. The reason for that is your cooldown reduction. You don't necessarily have to get that if you don't want to, but it's nice to have for your teleport, and it also adds a little bit more damage to your teleport. I also had the Oculus, which ended up giving me 20 ranks into teleport. My cooldown reduction got under 5 seconds. It was like 5.84 seconds or something. So you can get under 5 seconds on the cooldown on it. And I was able to just use that constantly because my crackling energy is going off that I'm getting with my thing right down here, the overflowing energy. So it's just constantly up all the time, and I was just able to bounce around and just go nuts. But I didn't really like the Oculus Wand that much. Other than using it for teleport, it wasn't really worth it. But it was fun while I did use it. Also down here, you want to get movement speed. That's another really big one. And then I just got crackling energy damage. Boots don't really have a whole lot of options for some really good rolls. So I got crackling energy damage here, almost max roll on it, but it's a bonus 40% damage to my crackling energy, which just helps out quite a bit. I can actually run around and not cast anything on all the little guys, the trash monsters, and they just die to crackling energy. I don't ever need to focus on them at all. I only focus on the elites and bosses. Whenever those pop up, I literally put all my focus on those. Everything else just dies to all the other bouncing around damage, crackling energy being one of those. So let's jump back up here to our gloves. Our gloves are going to have lucky hit chance and critical strike chance. The reason for that is because your gloves have a much higher threshold or maximum or whatever on those 2 items compared to your rings. Your rings can have up to a 7.5% critical strike chance and a 9% lucky hit chance, whereas this can have a 16.5 lucky hit and a 12% critical strike chance. So I recommend getting those 2 on your gloves rather than getting them on your rings. I have them on my rings as well. That's just because I didn't get anything better. Other things that you could look for on your gloves are bonus critical strike damage, lightning critical strike damage, vulnerable damage are all very, very, very good. Highly, highly recommend those. And then chain lightning. So make sure that your gloves have +4 ranks in chain lightning. And then those other 3 that I mentioned, or these right here that you're looking at, the lucky hit chance and the critical chance. So all of those are kind of equal. It just kind of depends on what you want more or less of. I would say play around with it, see what you get. It's kind of RNG. Let's jump over here to our amulet. On the amulet, there's a couple things you want to really look out for on your amulet. You want it to be 700 item power or more. Mine is not, so I didn't get some things that I really want on it, like the cooldown reduction being higher and that damage bonus being higher. But this was a really good necklace nonetheless. So you're looking for ranks to your conjuration skills. So +3 to all your conjurations, in addition to your plus up to 4 over here, gives you +7 to all your conjurations. +7 points into those conjurations really, really adds up some damage. Since you're going to be having up to 10 of those up at once, constantly doing damage, you're looking at quite a bit of extra damage there. +3 ranks into Devouring Blaze. This is the best one probably for boss killing, because you're going to be doing fire damage with your Hydra, so things will be burning, so +3 to your Devouring Blaze. You want to have bonus damage is a good one to have here, but mostly you're going to be looking for that cooldown reduction. You really want to get that cooldown reduction on there because you want to get your cooldowns as low as possible so that they're constantly resetting as much as you can, which is just going to give you more Ice Blades, which is just going to give you more cooldown reduction, and so on and so forth. So the more Ice Blades you have, the faster you can use these things. The faster you can use these, the more Ice Blades you have. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's kind of the goal there. You do want to get the vulnerable damage while you have a barrier active. This is one that does not work with Temerity, so I don't really like the Temerity, but they're supposed to be fixing that in the next update, like I said. So there you go on that. I like to use this one. There's another one that you could use that gives you bonus damage to crowd-controlled enemies. I think it's like up to 58%. That's another decent one to put in for your necklace, since it gives you a 50% bonus over the other slots. So you could do that, or you could put in this one right here, which is conceded. So you just have a 20 up to a 25% increased damage when you have a barrier active. You put that up here, and it becomes 30 whatever. 37.5% or whatever it is. Anyway, it goes up 38%. So that's another good one to have here. So again, either one of those is fine. I personally like the vulnerability one because we do make things vulnerable with our Ice Blades. Once you get rid of that Frost Nova, your Ice Blades are your primary for making things vulnerable. On your rings, you're looking for critical strike chance, you're looking for critical strike damage, you're looking for lightning critical strike damage, vulnerable damage are your main 4 things that you want on your rings. Other things that you could also get, resource generation is okay. That's why it's on here. It actually just happened that the other 3 things were great. Well, that obviously the critical strike damage wasn't great, but then I rolled into critical strike damage, so it made it pretty good. And then down here, I have lightning damage. I would prefer not to have just straight lightning damage. I would rather have something else like vulnerable damage, but lightning damage is okay. It's kind of down at the bottom, but it's better than having fire damage or something. So here, lucky hit chance is another good one for your ring. But like I said, vulnerable damage, critical strike damage, critical strike with lightning, lucky hit, critical strike chance, and those are probably the best ones. So if you can get those all on your rings, you're looking pretty. Down here on your weapon, you want your weapon to be as high as item power as possible. Of course, these are more important to be high item power than anything else. These over here give you a little bit more armor, so you really want those to be as high as item power as possible, but it's more important to have the right stats underneath it. Over here, you only need this to be item power 700 with the right stats, and then you bump it up to 725, and it boom, bang, whatever, it becomes the best item in the game for you, and they don't do anything over that. So it doesn't matter if these are 700 or 820, they literally are the exact same thing, so just make sure you have the right stats in them. On your weapon, though, you do want this to be as high item power as possible, and then you want to look at the secondary stuff. So like if you have 2 items that are like one's 800 and one is 790, so you have 10 item power difference, but the one that's 800 has like a bunch of poopy modifiers to it, and then the one that's 790 has critical strike, vulnerable damage, critical damage, whatever. Obviously you want to go with that, but if you have 2 that are similar, you want to go with the higher item power because that's going to give you more damage per second. Higher damage per second is really what you're looking for here. Then on the weapon itself, you're going to be looking for critical strike damage. Mine is kind of low. I would like to get a better one for that. Lightning critical strike damage is very good. Vulnerable damage is very good. All stats is okay. The reason you want all stats on any piece, like if you had all stats on any piece, it's okay because it helps you with your Paragon, which I'll show you in just a second if we can get there very quickly. Also, you're going to want to put on your Crackling Energy. Has a chance to proc to an additional target. You could do the Chain Lightning has a chance to hit 2 additional targets, but I find the Crackling Energy to be a bit better because it can kind of bounce around and do all sorts of crazy stuff, and it gives you that that timer or the cooldown reduction thing because of your overflowing energy. So if it hits that additional person or enemy or whatever, that's 3 hits rather than 2 hits that your Crackling Energy does. So it reduces that just a little bit more. So again, I like to do crackling energy, but the option there is to do the chain lightning. If you're doing single target like bosses, chain lightning is probably better. Over here on your focus. So on your focus, you want to get double cooldown reduction. You want this to be as high of item power as possible. That's going to give you your higher damage. Then you want to get double cooldown. So you can get that 10.3% cooldown reduction as your implicit, and then another 10.3% or up to a 10.3% as another cooldown bonus. So you're going to have cooldown bonus on these 3 items. So one is going to be your focus, your necklace, and your helmet, all at 10.3%. Times 4, so 41 point whatever, math. You can do math. So that's what that's going to end up being. I also have crackling energy damage on here, which I would prefer to have something else, but crackling energy damage is okay. And then I have the critical strike chance of 7.5%. So again, adding in that critical strike chance for me. So right now I have like a 43% crit strike chance with a bonus of like 200 something critical strike damage. So 41% crit strike chance, and then 209 crit strike damage, plus 87 on all of my lightning abilities, which are my main damaging abilities, being chain lightning and ball lightning and crackling energy. So I'm getting a lot of extra damage on those, and then lightning spear as well is going around and getting bonus damage from that. So that's what you want to put on these. I do put in the rubies for the bonus health. The reason I want the bonus health is because all of your barrier damage or all your barrier absorption, whatever, is based on your maximum health. So getting your maximum health as high as possible just increases your barrier, which is nice. And then down here, we want to have critical strike damage to crowd controlled enemies. You're going to be crowd controlling things quite a bit. So that adds 24% critical strike damage whenever you crowd control something. So that should cover all of your items. Oh, well, it does not cover all of your items. We're looking at the on the Eternal Realm, you're going to want to put skulls in here for the extra armor. But on the season right now, we have the hearts. The hearts that you want to get on all of your jewelry, if you can, get these orange slots. The orange circle slots are the vicious heart slots, and there's 3 vicious hearts that you want to look for. The first one is this one right here, which is the critical strikes electrically charge an enemy for up to 4.5 seconds, and then they do damage to all other charged enemies. You're going to be critically striking everything around you, so everything is going to be electrically charged, and they're all going to be shocking each other, right? So it's just going to be shock damage everywhere, and it's lightning damage, and you're already doing bonus lightning damage. As you can see here, I'm doing an extra 248% lightning damage. And then if it also crits, it's going to be doing the extra, almost 300% more crit damage. So it adds up quite a bit. That 615 damage gets multiplied out and does quite a bit more than you think it does. Here for the second one, you want to get the unique element one. So you can get up to 12%. I haven't found that yet, but you can get up to 12%. Each time you do a unique element, you gain 10% on mine. So I get 30% more damage, and I get it almost instantly. I put down 2 hydras, and I cast my so we do 2 hydras, and then we cast the ice blades. So there's my cold and my fire, and it's boom, right, going almost instantly. And then all my lightning damage is going to be going off because of all the other things that I'm doing. So I basically get 3 stacks of that instantly. So I have 30% bonus damage all the time throughout every single fight, and as long as you continue to do damage, it'll stay at that 30% throughout the entire fight, or up to 36% if you have that. The last one down here, if you can't get the Wrathful Hearts, I recommend getting the critical strike damage. So it's one that basically says critical strike damage does up to 90% more damage, but your non-critical strike attacks do 40% less. That's the one that you're looking for. It's actually really, really nice for this build if you have high enough critical strike chance. I have that 41% critical strike chance. So as long as it's, decently high, you're going to be doing quite a bit more damage as long as you have those 2. Like if you can get one that's like 65% and the other one that's 20%, you're going to be doing 3 times more critical strike damage than you are normal damage reduction. So if you do the math on there, critical strike is also multiplicative, so it ends up adding up quite a bit. So you really only need about 40-ish, 30% or so critical strike chance to make that worth it. But what I recommend getting instead of that is the Barber, if you can, which is the Wrathful Heart. So the Barber, whenever you get a critical strike, it basically makes it to where they take 0 damage, but they start to absorb the damage. And then after a set amount of time, in this case it's 3.6 seconds, after a set amount of time, all of that damage explodes into more damage multiplied times 1.14 per second. So it would take the 3.6 times 1.14 times all of the damage I did in that 3.6 seconds to that creature, and it explodes in an area effect around them. So that's where I take all my little hits, doing anywhere from 50,000 to 150,000. All of those little hits add up to be multi-million hits every 3.6 seconds on everything. It's just like boom, 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 boom. Things stun and then get critically struck, and they get stunned, and then they're stunned for 3 seconds, and then they explode. That's basically how this works. So that is everything. I know I'm going very, very fast here, so feel free to pause if you need to. Last thing we're going to look at is the Paragon board. I'm going to go over these very, very quickly so this video doesn't take forever, but I have charged, and you're going to put that into whichever one you can for the maximum amount of crackling energy. So you want to put anything that has has intelligence in it. We'll log back in real quick. So charged is the first one that you want to get. You want to get destruction, exploit, charged. What are the other ones? Oh boy. So charged, conjurer, and control, and then destruction and exploit here. So those are the 5 that you want to get. You'll be able to place all 5 of those in and get them leveled up very, very quickly. The trees that I use, this is the starter tree. Obviously you want to come up and just however you want to go through here, doesn't really matter. I put in well, it does matter, but however you choose to do it is up to you. But crowd control, so I put control here into this one because it does have 39 points in the dexterity, so it gives me the 115% to crowd controlled enemies. And I just come straight up here and I get the bonus 20% damage here and the bonus 20% damage here. And then we go on to the next tree. Next tree, I do the Enchantment Master. I do come over here and grab the Enchantment Master so that enchantments are 20% stronger. What that means is for these two, since they don't really do damage, it takes this from 40 seconds down to 33 seconds, and it takes this from a 24% chance to a 30% chance on a lucky hit to get that ball lightning. So that's basically what those do. I do like to have those. It doesn't cost that much to really just bounce right over here and grab that. So you might as well do that. It's worth it in my opinion. Then you're going to come up this way over here. You're going to grab these two for your bonus 40% more damage. Great way to get 40% damage. And then come right up here to your Conjuration. This is where the Conjuration glyph is going to go. You don't have to put Conjuration here. You could also put the Charged here if you want to, but they're only going to be 5 intelligence difference between the two, so it just about depends on which one you want to do here. The other big thing about this, though, is your Conjurations having 20% increased duration, which really helps out so that all 3 of your Conjurations last longer now, which allows you to keep your Conjurations up longer for that Conjuration Mastery, so you can get that bonus damage, 3% damage per Conjuration up. So you're going to grab as many of the intelligence nodes as you can around here. Grab all of those. These two really help out because plus 10 intelligence, so you might as well grab those while you can. And each 10 intelligence is 1% more damage, so go ahead and grab it. Then you're going to come right up this way, and this is going to be the Ceaseless Conduit Paragon tree. Here, I do recommend coming up here and grabbing this, but I don't recommend doing that until late game. You don't really need it. You could get rid of this completely if you wanted to and save these points and put them in somewhere else. Totally up to you. But this is 32% bonus damage to elites. Not too bad. Over here, you're going to be putting in your critical strike damage. This is the destruction. The reason you put destruction here is because this one has a lot of your dexterity nodes. So when you come up through here, you're going to grab all the dexterity nodes you possibly can. Don't forget these two over here. And then crackling energy damage as well here, because you're going to be using a lot of crackling energy. So I recommend grabbing that one there and this one here. So you're getting that extra 64% or 68% crackling energy damage from those two things, plus the bonus crackling energy damage from coming around here to Ceaseless Conduit, 82%, plus the ones that you get from my focus and my boots and so on and so forth. You can see how crackling energy really adds up. They're actually going to be increasing this also next week. Next, we're going to be coming over here to the Elemental Summoner. I do recommend coming down here and grabbing this. It's only a few extra points to grab both this 20% extra damage and this Elemental Summoner. You could come straight across here, but you're going to have to come straight across, you know, either way, no matter what you do. So you only have to add a couple more points, you know, to come down here, grab that, and then a couple more points to grab that. So you might as well do it. The 20% damage, and then this is a 15% because you have 4 different conjurations on here. 15% cooldown reduction on these two abilities, your Ice Blades and your Lightning Spear, and then a 15% mana cost reduction to your Hydra. So just kind of nice little extra thing to have there. Then you're going to come up here. You're going to have Crackling Energy into this one. That's going to be the bonus of 60. You could swap this out, flip them with the Conjuration if you wanted to. Doesn't matter. Whichever one you want to have more damage, you know, however you want to do it. But you grab that, and then you grab all the intelligence nodes in this area. The main thing about this glyph right here, though, is not just the crackling energy damage, which is nice, but it's also that your crackling energy damage, every time you pick up a crackling energy, you gain 5% damage up to 15%. So it stacks 3 times. And once you have that, you just run around and grab more crackling energy. I basically have that 3 stacks all the time when I'm fighting stuff. So I have an additional 15% damage to everything, plus all the bonus crackling energy damage. We're going to come up here. The next one is your Static Surge Paragon board. I do not go for the Static Surge. In the beginning, I actually wanted to go for that because I wanted the extra mana. And then I realized it's not worth it because you have to be close to the enemies. I don't want to be close to the enemies, especially late game. So I don't recommend getting that. But I do throw in the Vulnerable glyph here, the Exploit. Exploit is one of the better glyphs in the game for most people. This build, however, doesn't make a lot of things vulnerable, because the only thing that's going to be doing vulnerable is going to be your Ice Blades. So I wouldn't focus a lot on this. In fact, these points right here, you may want to take out, because this is only going to add 8% to your vulnerable, and it's going to cost you 5 Paragon points. You could move that somewhere else. So I would recommend getting these maybe last after you've bought all the way to the end of everything else. But I do put my vulnerable damage here. And then the good thing about that is, again, you're getting that 10% more whenever you deal damage to a vulnerable enemy. You will be doing damage to a vulnerable enemy because these Ice Blades will be making things vulnerable. So you'll be getting that extra 10% damage, you know, all the time, which is really, really nice. Also, you can jump right up here and get some extra damage to stunned enemies because you have to come over this way anyway. So you might as well go ahead and grab that to extra damage to stunned. I then come over here, and the last thing that I grabbed was Burning Instinct. And this one was kind of weird. I didn't really plan to get this one, but I ended up getting it anyway, because I was actually going to get this and put a point over here into this glyph and get these things over here. But then I was like, I don't have enough points to actually get to that glyph and utilize it. So I decided to go with Burning Instinct. The reason I went with Burning Instinct is because I'm already doing so much critical strike damage and everything. This is just going to give me 513% more burning damage. Now that's only going to work on my Hydras, but it basically takes my Hydras and multiplies that burning damage times 5. So right now it does 12% per hit over 6 seconds. That essentially becomes 60% over 6 seconds per hit. So every single time a Hydra hits something, it's doing 60% bonus damage and burning over 6 seconds. That adds up very quickly, especially when you're fighting bosses. It can really add up and do quite a bit of damage. If you want to, you could try to rotate this and come down here and grab these and just do, you know, bonus damage to burning enemies, and you could get another glyph. If you did get another glyph, excuse me, Electrocute might be a good one. I think another good one is this one right here, Adept. I was going to get Adept because of the increase in my mastery skills area range. I really wanted to get that one and try to put it in there, but I ended up not doing it. And then Imbiber was also another good one because you're pretty much always healthy, so you're just going to be dealing extra damage while you're healthy. another good one to have. So those are some options if you really wanted to go for this glyph over here and grab it. Could potentially do that. Anyway, hopefully that helps out. And if so, please like, subscribe, follow, check me out on Twitch, ask any questions, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.